Good morning. Good morning, Great Commission and everyone out on live. We are live here at Great Commission Baptist Church. And this morning we have with us for Tarrant. They are four ladies that are running for office in Tarrant County. And this morning they're going to be talking about this. They have a forum called Civic 101. And this morning they're going to be discussing everything related to election. So log on this morning and ask questions. These ladies have a lot of information to share with you, and as I introduce them, they will get started once I finish introducing them. We have this morning with us Lisa Pamplin, and she's running for criminal court number 5. And then we have with us Ebony Turner, she's running for criminal court number 6. And Mark Clayton, I apologize, Mark, and she's running for criminal court number 7. And then we also have with us Crystal Gayden, and she's running for District Court 324th. I'm going to turn it over to the ladies at this time.
Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Mark Clayton. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We are bringing you Civics One-on-One, and this is just a look into the government system, specifically the judicial system here in Tarrant County. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney, and I practice primarily here in Tarrant County. So we started Civics because we had been receiving a lot of questions. We're running together for judge here in Tarrant County, and a lot of people was not clear if they would only be able to choose one of us or all of us. So that's one of the questions we had. And there are a number of courts, starting from the top of Texas. We have our Texas Supreme Court. That is the highest court in this state. But right below that, you'll have your Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. That particular court only hears criminal cases, and that's like the Supreme Court for criminal cases only. Then you have your appellate level. That's one step above our state. So if you go to court for a criminal case or a divorce or some sort of lawsuit and you want to appeal the judgment, that's going to go to one of the appellate courts. Those courts hear all type of issues. And then you have your district and your county courts. That's the level which the four of us are running. Those are your state level courts. Our particular courts cover the entire county, and we'll cover that after a while. Right below that is your justice of the peace. So you would need to know where you live when determining which justice of the peace court you would fall in. That's based on precincts within the county. And for Tarrant County, there's 8 of those. And then you have your municipal level, and that's your city. So whatever municipality or city you live in, you would have a municipal judge or a few of them. So let's dig into Tarrant County. So we're going to look at the state level courts, that district and county court level. In Tarrant County, there are a total of 58 county and district courts. Only 43 of those are elected, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that is. Starting from the criminal courts, there are now 11 felony courts. That's going to be the district criminal courts. They'll handle your higher level of criminal offenses. Then there are 10 misdemeanor courts. Those are your lower level criminal offenses. 1 juvenile court, and that juvenile court has 2 associates. Those 2 associate courts are not elected. They're appointed. So whoever we elect in that juvenile court seat will have some strong influence over 2 other judges who will then make decision over pretty much every case that would come through the juvenile court. And then we have our family court structure.
So my name is Crystal Gayden. I am a practicing attorney in Tarrant County. My practice is focused on family law cases. Those are your divorces, child support, custody cases, CPS cases, including protective orders, adoptions, and terminations. And so I'm highly familiar with the Tarrant County Family Court System. The Tarrant County Family Court System is comprised of a total of 17 different courts. 6 of those courts are district courts. 6 other courts are associate courts. There are 3 4D, or better known as child support courts, and 2 child protection courts, again for a total of 17 courts. That court system structure is set up to where only the 6 district courts are elected seats. So when you get ready to vote, whether that be in the midterm election or in our presidential cycle, you will only vote for 6 of those 17 seats. The remaining 12 seats are associate or appointed seats, so the district judge has significant influence in determining who will serve in those remaining seats.
Okay, so moving on to a further breakdown of the criminal courts. I mentioned there are 11 felony courts. That's your higher level criminal offenses. And we list out the names of those courts just to show the distinction. We have CDC 1, which is Criminal District Court 1, CDC 2, CDC 3, CDC 4. Then there's the 213th, 297th, 371st, 372nd, 396th, 432nd, and the 485th. That 485th District Court is brand new, just opened up January of 2022. So that's the 11 felony courts. And then we have the 10 misdemeanor courts, and those all start with county criminal court and a number. So it's 1 through 10. None of these numbers mean you have to live any specific place. These are all Tarrant County-wide seats. So if you live in any city in Tarrant County, these courts will eventually be on your ballot, whether it's in a midterm or a presidential election. And just to point out further, as we were introduced, Lisa Pamplin, she's running for County Criminal Court 5. Ebony Turner's running for County Criminal Court 6. And I am Mark Clayton, I'm running for County Criminal Court 7. 3 different courts.
3 different courts, all in Tarrant County. So we just want to continue to stress that these are all county-wide seats. It doesn't matter what precinct you live in the county. When it's time to vote again, when it's time to vote again, March and in November, all of our seats will be on your ballot.
I'm sorry, someone is on Zoom, they can't see everybody, so would you ask them?
Do we need to log in?
Into YouTube? Okay, we're gonna ask everyone that's on Zoom if you would log into YouTube, because this is streaming live on YouTube. So if you're on Zoom, log into YouTube at Great Commission Baptist Church channel.
We were supposed to log in. I get it. I'm sorry, can we log into Zoom? I think that was the
That's okay.
intended setup.
We got you streaming on YouTube.
Okay,
So if you, just ask everybody to log into YouTube.
okay. And what's the YouTube again?
They know, just Great
They know
Commission Baptist Church, yeah.
Okay, if you're on Zoom, log into Great Commission Baptist Church. I don't think we probably should be logged. It's okay. Yeah. Okay, so if you're on Zoom, log into Great Commission Baptist Church on YouTube. That way you'll be able to see everybody here seated on the panel. Oh. If you're on Zoom, log into Great Commission YouTube. That way you'll be able to see everybody here on the panel. We'll apologize for that about that.
Gotta love live, y'all.
Yeah. We're trying
In the moment.
trying to reach as many platforms as we can, and we got a little disconnect here. So get on YouTube so you can see everybody on the panel, and don't worry about the individual lives. They'll be out there for you later. Okay. Moving right along. Yes, like Crystal said, this is live and in living color, if you couldn't tell.
Bloopers and all, y'all. Good morning.
And that is live. And yeah. Okay, so do you want to hit the breakdown of the family courts?
So we did kind of cover the family courts, and again, the stressing part of the family court system that we always want to impart is when the system is set up to have 17 courts. However, our decision-making only extends to 6 of those 17 courts. And as both Mark and I touched on, it's the district court's judges who make the decision about the other seats. And so when you get out to vote, make sure you have a significant understanding of who you're voting for, because that person's decision is going to influence the remaining and the majority of the court structure in our family court system.
Okay, we list out here the civil courts. They are very important too. We have a total of 10, let me make that, yeah, 10 district civil courts and 3 county level courts. Your civil courts are the courts that hear like car accident cases, or you started a business and now we want to see who's going to get it because we don't get along anymore. Let's see who will be the owner and who gets what. Your wide variety of lawsuits, if you're thinking of suing someone, that's going to fall into your civil courts. And we have a total of 13, that's 10 district and 3 county criminal courts. And then we have our probate court. So those are the courts where if someone passes away and you either have to probate the will or go get an heirship or determine what to do with that person's property, you're going to take that to your probate courts. And we have 2 probate courts. Each of those probate courts also have an associate, and guess what? That associate is not elected. So when you elect those probate judges, you are also determining what type of judge is going to be that associate, because that district judge that you elect will then determine those associate judges.
And just for clarity purposes, so far we've discussed our criminal court system, our family court system, our civil court system, and our probate court system. And so it's highly important, and one of the reasons why we continue to press our Civics 101 is at the core of our governmental body, we have our judicial systems, and Tarrant County is significant in the number of courts that we have. So it's very pressing that you get involved in your upcoming elections and make sure that, and we'll touch on this, that you vote all the way down the ballot so that you are involved in making sure that you have representation in your court systems across the board.
Yeah, let's talk about the demographics of Tarrant County. Tarrant County, 2.5 million people, and if you look at the judiciary, there are 0 Democrats, no Democrats on the bench in Tarrant County at all. You have 0 African American women at the district or county level. We have those at the JP level, but not at the judicial or district or county level. And there are basically no minority women, no women of color at all. No Asians, no Hispanics, no African American women in Tarrant County. And that's speaks volumes to why we are here and why we are doing what we are doing, because we want to let people know we need diversity in Tarrant County. Now, we often get the question, what precinct are you in, or what can I vote for you? Yes, you can vote for every last one of us. We're not competing against each other. We are sisters in this fight to change the demographics of Tarrant County. So if you live in Arlington, Azle, Bedford, Edgecliff, Euless, Keller, some parts of Grand Prairie, you can vote for us. Now, there are certain cities that border Tarrant County and Dallas County. You got Flower Mound, Grand Prairie, Trophy Club bordering Denton County. Wherever you pay your taxes, that tells you where you're going to be able to vote, okay? So you can vote for me, Ebony, Mark, and Crystal if you live in anywhere in Tarrant County, okay? So early voting, which we'll get to in a little bit, starts February 14th. And we need to see you there. Mm-hmm. And we need to make the 0 Democrats, 0 African American women, 0 minority women a thing of the past.
Indeed.
I wanted to piggyback on that really quick. Generally, when we're in person, we have a little handout here so you can kind of read as we go along. But since we are in this virtual space, let's go ahead and read out all of those cities just so everybody is clear, and then point out, we have a number of cities that borderline. So you'll want to, we used to say, look where you pay your taxes, but then I got my tax bill from Johnson County after my Tarrant County taxes was taken out my escrow account. And so I can't really look to where I pay my taxes because I pay taxes in 2 counties. So look at your voter registration card. That'll be the indication of which county you're going to be able to vote in. But you want to go ahead and do all the cities?
The cities in Tarrant County that we're referring to: Arlington, Azle, Bedford, Benbrook, Blue Mound, some parts of Burleson, Colleyville, Crowley, Dalworthington Gardens, Edgecliff Village, Euless, Everman, Flower Mound, Forest Hill, Fort Worth, Grand Prairie, Grapevine, Haltom City, Haslett, Hurst, Keller, Kennedale, Lake Worth, Lakeside, Mansfield, Newark, where is that? North Richland Hills, Pantego, Pelican Bay, Richland Hills, Reno, River Oaks, Roanoke, Saginaw, Sampson Park, South Lake, Trophy Club, Watauga, Westlake, Westover Hills, White Settlement, and Westworth Village. Those are the cities in Tarrant County. If you live in any one of those cities, you can vote for us.
And I just want to clarify, I think Lisa did a great job, but initially we talked about our court system structure, and at the bottom we have our justice of the peace courts, and then we have our county and district courts. Just to be clear, we do have representation at our justice of the peace court, and those courts handle like your evictions and your small claims issues, so there is representation at that level. Shout out to Judge Woodard, Judge Sanders, and Judge De Leon holding it down in your precincts, but anything above that, there is no representation there.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the countywide elections, but there are other elected officials that we want to point out, especially in this upcoming election. So as you know, if you're watching TV or social media, we do have a governor election coming up. So we have a governor's election, the lieutenant governor, attorney general, Supreme Court, Court of Criminal Appeals, comptroller, land, agriculture, and railroad commissioner. And those are all statewide elected official positions. So those are ones that, if you live in the state of Texas, that you'll be able to vote for. And then we did talk about our elections being countywide. There are other countywide elections. The county judge is one of them. And this is a question we get quite a bit because the names of our courts have county in them and judge in them. However, we are not running for the position of county judge. We are running for county criminal court judges. So the position of county judge is much like the mayor of a city. They preside over the commissioner's court. That's what the county judge does. So if you've seen some of those signs, that's not what we're running for. So just FYI. And then again, we have the district courts that we've already described, the county courts, the probate courts, and the district attorney. So that is another extremely important election that is taking place this election season. If you have been unsatisfied with some of the outcomes that you've seen in the criminal system, this is your opportunity to make a change.
Absolutely.
So because the current district attorney is no longer going to run for that position, there will be a new district attorney in Tarrant County come November. Who that is depends on you and how you vote. So it would behoove you to go and do your research and find out who you want to be your district attorney. A lot of people don't even know that that's an elected position, and it is. There is a top DA of every county, and then that district attorney hires assistant district attorneys to carry out the daily tasks of what a prosecutor does. And so if, again, the people that we deal with, Mark, Lisa, and I deal with every day are assistant district attorneys. They're the ones who make those plea bargain offers. They're the ones who prosecute the cases, take them to trial, and ask for certain sentences, right? So that's who those people are. But those people, again, are hired by the top district attorney that you have the opportunity to elect this coming season. So in March for the primaries, and then in November for the general election. So please pay attention to that election.
And I just want to interject something that's really been bothering me. If you look at the district attorney's race, you seeing people out here, they're talking about things that they can't do. They can't secure the border. They can't ban books, critical race theory. They can't ban Black Lives Matter. But you have to look at the rhetoric that one side is using and know the role of the district attorney. The district attorney's role is to prosecute cases in Tarrant County. They have no issues at the border. They are not librarians. And we just need to make focus on what their critical role is. And now, I'm good now.
And that's one thing we're gonna do is keep it real.
You can see she had to get that out. I understand.
I did.
But that's
felt it
true.
in my spirit.
It's true.
It was in my spirit.
We would not be doing our job if we didn't educate you on exactly what the role of these elected officials are. And that's just such a critical and important one. And so Lisa's absolutely right that those things she mentioned are not their role. What I mentioned, plea bargain offers, prosecuting cases, going to trial, deciding what sentences to offer, that's their job. That's their job. Yes,
Deciding
it
what
is.
cases to
even
even prosecute.
Yes, absolutely. That's their job.
And it's all right here in Tarrant County. They just do that in Tarrant County.
No, they do that.
Not at the border, Lisa.
But Tarrant County DA is not gonna be down in
In
Harlingen
South
or
Texas,
anything
no,
like
they're
that.
not.
No? Oh,
No.
okay.
So other roles we have that are really important that you may not even know are elected officials are district clerks and county clerks. They're the record keepers for the county. They're the ones in charge of filing paperwork and I always say, helping folks get out of jail when it's their turn. They process that paperwork and keep all of the records for the county court system. And those are extremely important roles. And you will have a chance to elect a new district clerk or county clerk if you so choose. Other elected officials. So we talked about how our numbers on our courts don't mean anything as far as where you live. If you live in Tarrant County, you can vote in those races. However, there are races that are determined by where you live. And so some of those include your your U.S. representatives, your state representatives, state senator, your county commissioner, your justice of the peace, constable, state board of education, and county college district commission board members. Also, your mayor. Shout out to Pastor Michael Evans, who's my mayor in Mansfield, and my pastor. And the mayors get to determine who the city manager are, the police chief, along with the city council. And then you have your water district and school board. So Lisa just mentioned critical race theory, banning books. So it is very important. We have a very important school board election coming up. In your different ISDs, please pay attention to who is running for school board. As you know, if you didn't know before this year, you know now, school boards play a vital role in what's happening in your school system. So we're talking about masks, or if we're talking about banning books, or if we're talking about critical race theory. Those are hot button election issues for school boards have been involved in this year. And so pay attention to who's running for school board. And okay.
So, question for you. So, in the school board election races, how are they determined? Like, are they determined by the area that you live in, or can you vote for, like, if I live in Crowley, can I vote for school boards in Fort Worth?
No, it depends on where you live. So some school boards have at-large districts. Some have single member districts. So it will really depend on what area of the school district you live in, if it's a single member district. If it's an at-large seat, then any person in that school district can vote for that seat, for those seats. So you really have to pay attention to whether or not your school board has at-large or single-member districts.
What about the new voting laws? Are you guys, ladies, up to date on the new voting laws that they've put in place? And how does that affect the citizens of the county?
I'll take that. So it could only if we let it. The new voting laws are essentially what's being called voter integrity. And it's supposed to be in place to ensure that the person voting is actually voting, they're only being able to vote once, and things like that. But if we know that the laws are changing in order to make it more hard for people to vote, then we just need to know that and do everything that we can to ensure that we vote and ensure that our vote is counted. So it's only going to affect people if you let it affect them. The vote is not taken away. Your right to vote is not taken away. So get out there and vote, whether it's now you have to take off of work a day, which everybody should absolutely be able to take off of work to vote, and it should not be counted against them. If we're not, I don't think we can do 24-hour polling anymore, things like that. But they didn't close all the polls. They didn't take away all the times. And the fact of the matter is we actually have 2 entire weeks and a day to get to the polls and vote. So that's only going to affect the people who allow it to affect them. Let's overcome whatever it is and still get out and vote. In fact, bring more people with you to show them that it don't matter what you're due, our voice is going to be heard. And then you vote them out. You vote out the people who's putting the law, who's making it harder for individuals to vote.
Thank you.
Before we move off of school board, I just wanted to shout out Calicia Lyons here in Crowley. We are at Great Commission, which is her church. Thank you for welcoming us here today. And you're running for school board in Crowley ISD, place 7. And so to your point and to your question, I believe, is your district a single member where you have to live in Crowley ISD, or are you at large?
Yes, you have to live in Crowley ISD.
Okay, so to that question that just came just a moment ago, you do have to live in Crowley ISD in order to vote for Calicia here in Crowley. And thank you for having us here at your church this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So as we move on through our civics, I hope everybody has their calendar out, their phones out, so they can mark these important dates. And hopefully they were already on your calendar, and this is simply a reminder of dates. This is simply a reminder of dates to come. Monday, tomorrow, January 31st, is the last day to register to vote. So if you're not registered to vote in the upcoming election, which is going to be on March the 1st, please log into votetexas.gov. That is where you can start your application process. You can inbox us and we can give you some information on where you can go to get registered. But this is a right that has been afforded to every individual in the United States and definitely in the state of Texas. And so if you are interested in voting, which you definitely should, please get registered to vote by tomorrow. The last day, and I don't know that we touched on this or if we will today, but your mail-in ballots. There are certain qualifications for individuals who want to still exercise their vote but have some impediments that prevent them from actually getting to the polls. You can request a mail-in ballot, and your deadline to do so is February 18th, 2022. And then, like Lisa touched on, early voting is on Valentine's Day. So before you go celebrate Valentine's Day with your bae or your boo, please go vote. The polling locations have extended hours during early voting times, usually from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And the lines are significantly faster. The wait times are lower. So February 14th through the 25th, and I believe that includes Saturdays and Sundays, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then we have our election day on March 1st, 2022. Those lines are going to be long. So if you want to avoid the lines, please vote between February 14th and the 25th. And I'll pass the rest of the days on.
And those lines at Papa Do's be long on Valentine's Day. So I just want to need y'all to get out here early and go vote early.
Yes.
Then you can get the Papados.
We have a question in the chat, and we'll also put this information in the chat. Where can they find the list of candidates that are running, and so that they can read up about those candidates?
That is a great question.
So there, you can find the Democratic candidates on the Tarrant County Democratic website and the Republican candidates on the Tarrant County Republican website. I don't know those off the top of my head, but Google, and we'll put those out, but Google Tarrant County Democratic Party, Tarrant County Republican Party. Their websites will come up, and it's generally a link from the home page, and you'll see everybody who's running.
Also, there's another question, and I can probably answer this one. They wanted to know where can they find the sample ballot, and also if they go into Tarrant County CAD or Tarrant County voter lookup, if they put their information in their name and their date of birth, it will come up with all the candidates. There's a place where you can click on so you can see all the candidates on the ballot, and we'll put that in the chat as well.
And also, the League of Women Voters put out information on Thursday, so you can go to the League of Women Voters and you can read up on all the candidates, all our what we want to do, and our platforms are on that website. So you can go to the League of Women Voters. They put out information, and you can read our backgrounds, why we were running and all that. It came out on Thursday.
Thank you.
Okay, and if you've been watching the news or paying attention, you know that there have been several issues with the mail-in ballots, and several of them have been rejected. And it's because the information on the mail-in ballot doesn't match what the person used however many years ago when they first registered to vote. I personally don't remember what information I would have put down. I've been registered to vote since I was 18. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but it's been a while. So I wouldn't remember. And so you can imagine, some of the people that are older than me, how that might be an issue. So what is being suggested is to put down your driver's license and the last 4 digits of your social security number and your phone number and email address and address, any identifying information to try to ensure that your ballot doesn't get kicked back. And the deadline for mail-in ballots is February 18th. So if you want to get a mail-in ballot, you've got to request that by February 18th.
So you hit on a really important part about the ballots being rejected, or actually the vote by mail ballot?
Yeah, the applications for the ballots
Okay.
being rejected.
So if someone has received that their information has been rejected, what do they need to do?
They're going to have to reapply.
Immediately.
Immediately,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, so especially if you get a letter back, please correct whatever it is and get that sent back in immediately, because that deadline of February 18th is going to remain the same. But as Ebony stated, ensure that you're filling out everything and include some contact information. We heard from one of the folks that work for the elections to go ahead and put your contact information, a phone number and or an email address on your application, and then call up the elections office and make sure they got it. And make sure there's no problems with it, because what if you don't get the letter back that says yours was rejected? Track it down yourself and make sure that it's received. If we have to go the extra mile, do it, because we want to make sure that everyone's vote and everyone who intends to vote gets to vote, and that it does get counted. So fill out everything, your driver's license and the last 4 of your social, include some contact information, and then after a couple of days, call up the elections office and see if it was received and in good order.
I want to answer a question that's in the chat. And it says, is there an age limit on voting? My dad is 92 years old. No. No, we want everyone who can and will and is able to vote to vote. There is no age limit on voting, not a top age limit. You have to be 18, obviously, to register to vote, or 17 years and 10 months and about to turn 18. But you have to be 18 to actually vote. But there's not a top age limit, so please, that's encouraging. Please vote.
And one thing I want to just clear up, if for whatever reason your mail-in ballot is rejected and you have not submitted a revised application, you can still vote. You would just have to go to your polling location to do so. If there's an issue with you going inside, they will bring a poll out to you a ballot out to you. So there's still a process. Please don't allow that to be a deterrent with you exercising your vote. But if you can do these things early, you have an opportunity to catch any mistakes.
And just, did you cover the population of the mail-in ballot, people who gets mail-in ballots? So your mail-in ballots is generally for our elderly people, so over 65, can't physically get to the polls. If you have some sort of health condition or disability that doesn't allow you to physically get to the polls, or if you are temporarily housed out of your area. So if you are living out of state for work, for 3 months, you can get a mail-in ballot and still vote in your county. And if you are in jail pending a case, you've just been sitting there waiting on your case to either go to trial or get resolved, but it's not yet resolved, you can request a mail-in ballot and you can vote from jail. A lot of people did not know that. I'll go ahead and segue into our next topic, which is, can felons vote? I'm gonna give y'all a second just to put that into your mind. Usually kind of do a hand raise, but put it in your mind. Can felons vote? If you have a felony conviction ever, can you vote? The answer is not no. It's maybe. It depends. So once you have a felony conviction, your right is not taken away forever. You can vote once you're completely done with whatever your sentence is. So if you got 5 years of prison time and you went down and you did every day of those 5 years and now you're done, you can get registered to vote and you can vote again. Now you do have to register again. You don't have to file nothing in court. You don't have to ask anybody to do it. All you have to do is register and then go vote. Let's say you did 2 out of 5 of those years and you came out and you were on parole for the other 3 years. Now you can't vote while you're on parole, but as soon as you're done, as soon as you're off paper, you're done with everything, you can register to vote and you can go vote again. That's huge because some people just don't know that. And Lisa she ran into someone early on who hadn't voted in over 30 years.
Right.
He didn't think he could ever vote again. So he had not voted in over 30 years because he had a felony conviction from the 90s. That is just not the truth. And when folks come off of paper or walk out of prison, they're not given a registration card. They're not told, hey, you can go vote again. That's not information that's going to be handed to you, but we can educate each other, and that's what we intend to do. Another area, and we have the Elections Code, section 11.002. It defines what a qualified voter is, and that's the part of the code that talks about this. So the first part of that actually says not finally convicted. So you are not finally convicted if your case is pending. So if you're just sitting in jail waiting on your trial or waiting to plea or whatever you're going to do, you're not finally convicted. If you take or your sentence is a deferred probation, your finding of guilt had been deferred. So you're not finally convicted. And those folks on deferred probation can vote. If you were convicted, meaning you went to trial, you were found guilty, and you decided to appeal that decision, while your case is on appeal, if the appellate court had not affirmed or overturned, if the appellate court has not made a decision, you are not finally convicted while your case is on appeal. So folks, if you know people that are in jail that match any of these situations, they're pending, and it's not final, get them a mail-in ballot. Have them to vote in this election because they can do so.
I have a question in the chat. What's your view on backlog criminal cases?
That's actually a part of all of our platforms. We know that there's a huge backlog here in Tarrant County. So it built up even more during COVID because the courts shut down. That is going to be on the top of all of our agenda, is to clear out that backlog. And we can do that by looking at super old cases and making sure we're getting those moved one way or another. We can't force the resolution, but we can force the end of the case. And so we can take care of that. We've all handled lots of cases. Ebony, I want you to say your spiel because I just love when she says it.
Oh,
She's handled.
So I've handled thousands of cases, and I was a public defender, so I've handled and managed a large docket successfully and pretty much for the last 15 years, but I've handled thousands of cases, so I am the perfect person to get that backlog down because I've done it for so many years. So I know that I'll be able to accomplish that goal in making the court system more efficient.
Yeah. And so a part of that is just ensuring that we're holding both the state and the defense's feet to the fire and not allowing the case to just drag and drag and drag and drag on. There has to be decisions made, and a part of what I say is I don't believe a case should be pending longer than the maximum amount of punishment one could receive. So in a misdemeanor court, the maximum amount of punishment is up to 1 year in Tarrant County Jail for a Class A misdemeanor. There's no reason an individual should be waiting a year plus, and then at the end of that have to go on probation for another year or however much longer. I think that's unacceptable, and so we have to really take a look at these cases and ensure that we're not allowing the cases to pend for a long period of time.
And another thing, just piggyback, we have to take into account too the victims. It's not just about the defendant. A victim, many women in domestic violence cases, like me and Ebony will handle, they need closure. So we have to pit bringing a defendant's case to trial, but while at the same time remembering that there are victims out here also that need closure.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving right on down to Crystal's favorite.
Yes, this is my favorite part of our civics. Too often do voters simply go to the polls and they cast a vote at the top of the ballot. And we've learned throughout this process and even in our civic engagement prior to running as candidates that the bottom of the ballot is where we find our foundation, and the top of the ballot is only as strong as the bottom of the ballot. So part of our civic tour is to encourage voters to understand the roles of all of the seats at the bottom of the ballot, with the hopes that when you go vote March 1st, or preferably February the 14th, that you will vote all the way down the ballot. So at the top of the ballot, as Ebony discussed, you're going to find your governor's race, and then all other races are going to follow. And at the bottom of the ballot is where you're going to find your judicial races. And so it is very important that you vote all the way down the ballot. One more time, all the way down the ballot.
I had a question. So when you say voting all the way down the ballot, but when I go into the voters box, I see I see the first page. How do I get to the bottom of the ballot?
There should be an arrow button, and you can just click it. But we want you to vote in all of the races. And so one of the analogies that we use is if you are a teacher or you have children, when they submit incomplete work, you usually give it back to them to make sure that they complete all the work. Please vote at the top. We're not saying ignore the top. We're not saying ignore any of the races. Please vote at the top. However, make sure that you vote all the way down to every single race. Now, if you are concerned about some of the races, you're not too familiar, there is a next button arrow. You can skip through some of the races if that's what you prefer. We would prefer you to be educated and know who and what you're voting for. But again, vote at the top, vote all the way at the bottom. And one of our good friends, Noel, says vote at the bottom and then work your way to the top. So if you want to scroll to the very last page and then start voting from there and then work your way to the top. Either way, make sure you have a complete ballot.
And Crystal, you want to address, since we're running unopposed, it's still important to check the box?
Yes. So there are going to be two separate elections in 2022. We have our primary election that's coming up. That's the one we've been talking about. That's going to be on March 1st. And then we have our general election. All four of us have been blessed not to draw primary opponents. So that means when you get ready to go vote, one, you will have to designate which party you're going to vote in, whether that's the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. We are running as Democrats. And so when you vote, and you're not going to see an opponent in our races when you vote March 1st. However, it is still important that you go out and you vote, because we want to show the engagement, and we want to let the other side know that this is a true, in fact, race. And we want to definitely be able to ensure that all this year that we've been running and racing and campaigning, that our efforts have not been in vain.
So you're saying in the primary, there's going to be two different parties. There's going to be a Democratic Party where you go in and vote all Democrats, and there's going to be a primary. So basically what you're saying is you're choosing someone to vote for in the general election.
Yes, so in your primary election, you have to choose a party to vote for. You're not going to be able to pick and choose from either party. You have to either vote Republican or Democrat. You're only going to get one ballot. However, that changes in your general election, whereby if you feel comfortable more with a Republican or a Democratic candidate, you can choose between the two.
Okay, so if this is a question that was posed, so if I fail to go in the primary to vote, can I vote in the general?
You sure can.
Okay.
Yes.
But we don't want them to fail to vote in the primary, right?
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, we still need your numbers in the primary. And a way to keep tracking your mind of the difference in the elections, your primary election keeps a candidate on the ballot. So you'll maintain a candidate on the ballot by voting in the primary election. Your general election is where you're going to put the candidate in their seat. So the first time, you're going to keep them on the ballot. The second time, you're voting to put them in their seat that they're running for. I think this is a perfect time to plug. We are planning a stroll to the polls. We want y'all to come vote with us. We are going to vote not as soon as the polls open, but on the first day.
As soon as the polls open.
The first day the polls open on Valentine's Day. So we want y'all to come out and show us some love. Vote with us. We will be pushing out a flyer with the polling location that we will be voting at, and so we really would love if you all would come out and join us, and let's vote early, which is on February the 1st, like we said. Go 14th, I'm sorry. Like we said, go before you head out on your date, and meet us at the polls before you head out on your date. Vote, and then go hang out. Do whatever you need to do. Okay.
So, question, why is it so important to vote early?
You'll avoid lines, problems. Yeah, you don't want to wait till the last minute. Usually that's when all the issues occur, when you're running out of time. Yeah, really to avoid lines and just kind of get it out of the way. Because on polling day, and some people just like to go on election day for the feel of it, and that's great. I'd rather go early so I can walk in and walk out.
Okay, so can you talk about where can I go and vote in Tarrant County?
Anywhere in the county. So you now can vote anywhere in the county, even on election day. You do not have to vote near the polling location of where you, or at the polling location near where you live. If you work in Mansfield and you live in North Fort Worth, you can vote in Mansfield, you can vote North Fort Worth, you can vote downtown, you can vote in Burleson, or wherever in the county on. But only vote one time. Yeah, don't don't go to all the places trying to vote. You'll be in jail. You'll be in jail if you
So
go
basically you're saying that if I live in Tarrant County, I can vote anywhere in Tarrant County?
anywhere in the county.
So if I live in Dallas County, can I vote in Dallas County for Tarrant?
No. Anywhere in Tarrant County.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's generally the, coming to the end of our presentation, we have Ebony's husband, Alan Turner, who comes and talks about, what happens when you actually get to the polling location. And so today, we're gonna have
We're gonna
Mrs.
go
Turner.
till 15 after.
Okay, Mrs. Turner, cover those for us.
I hope he's taught me well. So typically, this, again, my husband does do this part of the presentation. He's been an election judge in Tarrant County for about 5 years now. And so usually he'll go through what the machine looks like. We've even had the machine brought into us for him to actually demonstrate the machine. But essentially what happens is when you're ready to go vote, you'll arrive at the polling location and you may see people outside trying to hand you literature of who to vote for. They're going to say, vote for my candidate, whoever that may be. And they may hand you literature. You can actually accept that literature, and you can take that literature into the polling place with you. And to repeat what he always says, but when you leave, make sure you take it back with you, because he doesn't want to have to clean up all that. You can't leave that in the voting booth. But when you arrive inside, the first thing they're going to do is ask you for your ID. And there are different forms of acceptable IDs, but the main one that they look at usually is the driver's license. If you don't have a driver's license, they can use your voter ID, or there's an election ID card that you can get from DPS. There are other forms of acceptable IDs. I think your fishing license, hunting license, things like that.
Gun license.
Gun license. We're in Texas. Hello, Texas. So those are your passport. So those are all different forms of acceptable IDs that you can have. So you'll present your ID, and they will give you an access. They'll input it, make sure you're registered to vote in the county, and then they'll give you an access code. And that access code is what you'll take to the machine with you. You'll take the access code to the machine, you'll input that access code, and then your ballot will pop up, and you should be able to begin voting, and it's either a touch screen or a dial through in order for you to be able to vote. One of the things that we learned is, say for instance, you finish voting, you believe you finished, and you're ready to put that ballot. Oh, let me back up to the ballot. The ballot that you get when you take over to the machine should have a signature on it, and it should be the election judge's signature. That is the only marking that should be on that ballot. If there's another marking, that's not a good ballot, but it has to have that on there. So if it's blank and doesn't have the election judge's signature on there, then it's not a valid ballot. So you can't use that one. So be sure it has the election judge's signature on it. So you take that ballot over to the machine, you input it, and then you use your election, the access code to begin voting. So hopefully as you're scrolling through, your candidates that you want to see are popping up and you're able to vote for them. So what happens if you get all the way to the end, you print out your ballot, and you don't see the candidates you were looking for? You don't see any of the for Tarrant, you don't see Kalisha if you're in her district. Oh my goodness, what happened? You take that ballot to the election judge and say, hey, I don't see anybody I meant to vote for on here. So it could be that you made a mistake. So at that point, you're not actually, it's not done. You can actually get another ballot. And you can actually mess your ballot up to 3 times. So that is something that we've all learned by doing the Civics 101. You can actually mess up your ballot 3 times. And so you'll be able to get another one. You have a question?
Yeah, that's a good point, Ebony, because there's been a couple of times where I went to the ballot box and the candidate that I wanted to vote for was not there on my screen. What do I do? Can you reinstate what you do on?
Yes, you would take that to the election judge or
what would you take?
Take the ballot. Take
Okay.
the actual ballot to the election judge and say, this isn't right. This isn't who I was trying to vote for, and they can fix it for you. So if it was a mistake, maybe you chose Republican and you meant to choose Democrat, so only Republican candidates popped up in the primary. Excuse me. Then they can just you can simply go back, get a new access code and a new ballot, and you can start over. And they'll spoil that ballot for you right in front of you. You know, they'll rip it up and they'll put it in a nice envelope, and you'll be able to get a new ballot and start all over.
So you need to do that before you push submit, correct?
You need to, well, you can already press submit, but you need to do it before you input that ballot into the second machine.
Gotcha.
So, because there's kind of a 2-step process when you're inside the voting booth. So you'll print out that ballot where after you've already chosen who you want to vote for, and then you'll take that completed ballot over to the other machine to input it. That's when your ballot is cast. And that's when, once that's done, you'll get the thing that says you voted, the little American flag, and then that's when you'll be able to get your little vote sticker. Because, did you really vote if you don't get the sticker?
Right.
You got to have proof because it's for your Facebook and your Instagram pictures, right? That you got to show
Right.
everybody you voted. So, and if you're a kid, if you bring your child with you, there's little future voter stickers that are really cute that they can wear as well. So that's how you know your ballot is cast. But you don't have a complete ballot until you've done that second step and put it in the second machine.
Okay. If a candidate is the only name on the list, should I still vote for that candidate?
Yes, if that's the candidate you intend to vote for, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
The numbers count. A lot of people are going to wonder why. The numbers really do count. And this is more of the political strategy, which, whatever, we're here. This is how it works. Should it be that way? Probably not, but it is. So the numbers do count because it shows that we do have voters in this county that will come out and vote for us. And that's going to make a difference when we are going into that general election. We want to ensure that the voters are here and that they're going to get up and get out and vote.
So one of the things we talked about is being able to vote anywhere in the county. And the reason that is because all the machines are integrated together. They're all on one system. So that's why you can't vote in Mansfield and then try to go vote in North Fort Worth, because it's going to register that you've already voted. So all the machines in Tarrant County are linked together. So that is why that's why you can vote anywhere in the county. Another thing that we try to encourage is civic engagement for young people. And so one way you can do that is to have your student work at the poll. If your student is 16 or up, they can be an election worker. And they'll get paid for it, $13 an hour, and they will get school credit for it. So they will have to have their parents sign off on it, as well as a school principal or counselor, and they will get credit for that day. So they can miss a day of school, and it won't count against them, and they will go and get paid. My daughter has done it, and she absolutely loves it.
My daughter will do it this year.
She absolutely, and she brings friends, and so they get to kind of hang out and also learn. But they get to see the importance of voting, and what that does for our justice system and our voting system.
Okay, we have about 9 minutes left. When you finish, we have a few questions we want to address.
Okay, the last thing we'll talk about is, I know you mentioned about the new voting laws. So the voting laws for poll watchers has become a little bit more, what's the word? They were definitely politicized. But so poll watchers, their ability to watch is increased. They're able to come in, and as long as they can be close enough to see and hear what's going on. They cannot hover over you in your individual booth. However, they can be inside the polling place. So it's not just outside or whatever like it used to be. They can be inside the polling place, and they can walk around. They can watch the judges do what they do, pack up, the election equipment at the end. They can follow the election judge to turn the equipment back in at the end of the night. So their roles have significantly increased from this last legislative session law changes. So we encourage anyone to be a poll watcher to help with that, right? So if the other side's probably going to be doing it, why don't you? So you can sign up to be a poll watcher, and you can do that either from the party or from a specific candidate.
Okay, great. I noticed that you mentioned about poll watchers. Is there training for poll watchers?
I don't think there's any training. You just get that certificate and you go.
No training, okay.
Yeah, so you're designated by a person and you go.
Okay. Can you reiterate about the primary and the general? Someone had a question about what's the difference with primary and the general election?
Yes, so your primary election is where you're electing or nominating your candidate in your party. So that is the opportunity to keep one candidate from each party in each race on the ballot. And that one candidate from each party in each race will then be on the general election ballot. They will go against the other party at that time. So in March, you're going to nominate one candidate to stay on the ballot, and in November, you're going to elect one candidate to take the seat.
And I'll give a quick example Ebony touched on our district attorney race. There are 3 candidates in the Republican Party, and there are 3 candidates in the Democratic Party. So when you get ready to vote in the primary election, you're going to choose which party you're going to vote for, and whoever of those 3 candidates that has the most votes, they will then move on to the general election. So one of the 3 in the Republican race and one of the 3 in the Democratic race will be on your general ballot in November.
And then I just wanted to also reiterate, in March, you're only voting in a single party. So you have to pick. In November, you can vote for whichever candidates you want to vote for, whether they're Democratic, Republican, or Independent. Whoever's on the ballot at the time, you can vote for whichever candidates in whichever party you want to in November, but in March, you have to pick a party.
So when I go to the polls, early voting starts February the 14th. When I go to the polls on February the 14th, I have to tell the poll workers which party I'm going to vote for. Am I going to vote in the Democratic primary, or am I going to vote in the Republican primary?
They're going to ask you.
Okay. So if I tell them I want to vote in the primary Republican Party, can I vote for you?
No.
Okay. So that means I would have to vote for every Republican on that ballot.
Yes, or like Ebony mentioned, if it's a mistake, let's say you get over there and you don't see the people you want to vote for. You tell your election judge, hey, this doesn't look right. I don't see anybody on here I want it to vote for. You're probably in the wrong party. And at that time, your election judge will spoil that ballot and get you a new one and put you in the right party. So there's an opportunity to correct it if you do mistakenly get to the wrong party's ballot.
Okay. We have another question. What can be done about those that are trying to imitate voters at the poll?
Be prepared. Know that it's going to happen. Be prepared. Vote early. And also know if you feel that intimidated, you can leave that poll and go to another poll. That is another reason why we stress voting early. If there are any issues, you can address that with the polling judge at the election judge at your poll. And if it's too overwhelming, leave and go to another poll.
Okay.
And that polling judge is important, like she mentioned. They are the overseers of the polling location. So even if you do leave and go to another poll, make sure that behavior is reported to the judge, because the election judge can, at that time, or when they feel as though a person has overstepped their duties, ask them to leave the polling location.
So you're saying that I can go to the election judge and let the election judge know that I've been intimidated,
Correct.
and then the election judge will do something about
Right.
that?
Yes,
That's right.
definitely.
Thank you for that. Well, our time is almost ending. We have about 3 minutes. Do you have any closing remarks, ladies?
Just one quick closing remark. There's no straight ticket. You have to go in and individually vote for each person. You can't hit the little button anymore. You have to go in and individually click all of our names if you're voting, no matter what primary you're voting in, but no straight party balloting, period.
Really quick, I'm gonna hit the voting resources. They're on the slide, so I'm gonna do my best. You can verify your registration. We talked about going to pull your sample ballot and seeing who the candidates are on the Tarrant County election website. That website, I'm gonna say it slowly because the beginning of it is funny. It's GISIT.tarrantcounty.com/TCVL. This is where you can go in and see your precinct, who your state reps are, and all of that. And you can also pull your sample ballot and see what candidates are running. Verify your registration. Make sure that it's active. You'll do that at votetexas.gov. You can also do your change of name and address. You can also request, if you're not registered, you can request the application to register, but you'll have to mail that in. Vote early. Vote by mail at tarrantcounty.com is the email address you can request your mail-in ballot from, or you can mail in the application to request it. That's vote by mail at tarrantcounty.com. Those are the resources. And then again, just Google the Tarrant County elections, and there's a whole website with a wealth of information. Follow all of us at For Tarrant @4 Tarrant, and you can connect to our individual pages and websites from that one Facebook page.
Thank you, ladies. We'd like to thank you from Great Commission for coming out to do this tour. We greatly appreciate you, and we wish you much success. And I want to just say one thing. So the election in March, I noticed we talked about school board. When is the election for the school board?
May?
May. Okay, so we don't vote for them at the same time?
No.
No.
Okay, great. Well, we like to thank you so much, and we
Thank you.
appreciate your time for coming out and speaking with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you
you.
for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
Thank you.